You're listening to Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by. On the morning shift.
Anything
could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. The miracle that is Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift on CKLU 96.7 FM. The reason why I say the miracle that is that there's so many components that make it possible to do this show each and every weekday morning that it is definitely a miracle when it happens, and miracles are happening every day. The odd time, one of the many factors get in the way of the show going forward, because there are so many factors that can get in the way. But the idea that it even we're even having it as often as we do, meaning most of the time, it is a miracle. So we got lots coming up for you today in the show. You are listening live at CKLU 96.7 FM. If you're listening on the radio, that's where you're listening to us from. And you can also stream us if you don't listen to us on the actual radio. You can catch us streaming at cklu.ca, and you just click on the Radio Player Canada app, and you download the app, and you can take us with you and listen to us anytime, anywhere on your favorite device. We are also streaming still, surprisingly, on Facebook and YouTube at facebook.com/Sudbury News, youtube.com/Sudbury News. So to make sure to like, share, subscribe, follow the social media channels and pages that we have. You can search them. We even have a TikTok. We haven't done anything with it yet. Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. Well, Twitter now, X, I guess you can say. But we are on all the social media platforms. Also, Sudbury.news. Check that out. It's a Sudbury's news aggregator. But mainly on Facebook and YouTube, make sure where we are streaming live, make sure to comment. This is your conversation on your station about local news and events, and news that comes from and affects us, that comes from regional and provincial, national, and international news. So make sure to check us out. Even if you're not from Greater Sudbury, hopefully the show has some form of information that you think you can take from it and learn something and be part of the conversation and chime in. Also, entertaining to some degree. So there you go. So let's start off with a little bit of local weather from Greater Sudbury, and we'll be back with some news headlines, your comments, and continuing on our deep dive into the federal government as what it is right now. There's so many things going on in Canadian federal politics. And is Justin Trudeau doing a good job? Like, what do you think? Is he, many people are calling for his resignation, even from his own party. We'll talk about that today. Is he a good leader? Is he someone that Canada will look back and go, wow, he was one of the best leaders Canada has ever had, or not? So let's just dive right in with some weather, and we'll be back right after this. All right, and your weather is brought to you by sudburyweather.ca. For all things Sudbury weather, visit sudburyweather.ca. Well, I mean, just go on the app on your phone, for crying out loud these days, right? Let's get the screen all up for everyone here. Currently it's -3, but it feels like -7. Winter weather advisory, weather advisory, continuing to be in effect for Greater Sudbury and vicinity. Just says weather statements, and there's nothing there. So there you go. Not sure why, but looks like we got a pretty big dumping already, and should be over. Maybe that's why it's blank. So there you go. And today, flurries changing to rain showers or flurries near noon. So no, it's not done. Risk of freezing drizzle. So there you go. Here's the warning, just in the forecast itself. Snowfall amount of 2 centimeters. Wind will be gusting up to 50 kilometers per hour this afternoon. High +2. Wind chill will feel like -5 in the morning, or -5 in the morning. Tonight, cloudy with a 60% chance of flurries or rain showers this evening and after midnight. The few flurries beginning after midnight, so more snow tonight. Few flurries again tomorrow, ending in the morning. Mix of sun and cloud. Very moderate wind. Wind chill will be -7 in the morning. And look at your long range. Friday again, few flurries, high of 0. Mix of sun and cloud for Saturday and Sunday, high of -2, high of -1 respectively. Cloudy on Monday. Mix of sun and cloud for Tuesday and Wednesday. 4 degrees and 5 degrees is what they're calling for Tuesday and Wednesday. And so many clouds in the satellite here. Let's just get it moving. This is from yesterday, so website's a bit wonky this morning for the weather. Not sure why, but we're supposed to have a weather warning there. Not sure why we didn't get it, but it is what it is. So here's the weather as it's moving along in and over northern Ontario. A lot of clouds. That's about it. So expect the unexpected this time of year. Prepare for about anything, and really that's all you got. Make sure you got your winter tires on, because if you don't, you're putting yourself and others in possible danger. So make sure you got that. And now that everyone's going to be probably very busy, all the shops changing tires, I make I have a new, I guess it was a New Year's resolution at some point, and I stuck to it for the last couple of years, is that every Halloween, that's when I change my tires. So for the month of November, and then in spring, I guess it just varies, but it is definitely in the 1st of November, basically, I got to have my winter tires on, because you never know. That is your Sudbury weather, brought to you by SudburyWeather.ca. We'll be back with news headlines, your comments, much, much more right after this. Sudbury Sports, brought to you by SudburySports.com. For all things Sudbury Sports, visit SudburySports.com, because it's Randy Pascal's site. He is that Sudbury Sports guy. Now, Sudbury Wolves have a busy couple days ahead of them tonight, and they're on the road, basically. Tonight they're in Niagara, a rematch of last game, where we beat Niagara Ice Dogs 3-1. 6 days ago, they're in action tonight in Niagara. Then tomorrow night, they cross the border to Erie in Michigan and face the Erie Otters. Then back on this side of the border, the Brantford Bulldogs on November 11th. So that's Saturday. So tonight, tomorrow, and Saturday, 3 nights in a row, the Wolves are on the road, and you can catch each of those games right here on CKLU 96.7 FM. CKLU.ca. All right, so we'll be back with your comments, much, much more right after this. right. Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone's having a fantabulous Thursday, even though, I don't know, bit of a damper put on it with the weather, but weather happens. There's not much you can do about that. And we are in Greater Sudbury, so you can expect anything. Maurice, good morning. You just barely beat Judy to the punch this morning. A nice smiley emoji, much appreciated. And good morning, Judy, with that. And then Belinda, good morning. Our fingerprints don't fade from the lives we touch. Very thought-provoking as usual, much appreciated and very positive. So thank you very much for that. Denise, good morning, everyone. Drive safe. Oh, for sure. If you're driving, make sure, take precautions, and scrape things off your car before you leave, too. You don't need anything inhibiting your view. Okay, Denise, blessings, everyone. This fine snow morning, for sure. Look at the positive, I guess. I think the goodwill and the good intention of this show always finds a way through. Oh, well, I hope so. That's definitely what I strive for. I really hope that. Thank you so much. Good rising, Monique. David, good morning. Take care. Stay safe. Much appreciated. Danica, good morning with a heart emoji. Okay, here we go. Bill M103 passed in Canada recently. Trudeau has pledged 50,000 Palestinians to come to Canada. Carbon taxes are what is a FATA tax. Oh, interesting. Interesting way of looking at it. And that, I guess, isn't too much in the news. We've talked about it on the show that there's going to be people needing a place to live, refugees from the conflict in Palestine and Israel. And we talked about where these refugees are going. So it looks like 50,000. So we're bringing a city the size of North Bay over. So we'll have our own little Palestine in Canada. I guess we have our own little everything now anyways, kind of thing, right? So that's a very complex, layered conversation. It's but it's going ahead no matter what, I guess. Hello, Name Ace. Good morning. Good morning to you, Brian. Can't pronounce what you said there, but that's fine. And then Ryan, not to be confused with Brian. It'd be perfect to say snow in Hindi. Oh, okay. Just like it sounds. Interesting. Okay. Jerome, good morning. Snowy Sudbury for sure. Pam. Wow, YouTube is like 40 seconds behind today. Yeah, and yesterday you had to come on Facebook too, right? Because it was freezing. Good morning to you, Pam. Thanks for being with us. And Jerome, been working, could only watch you on YouTube reruns. That's funny to think the show is, we have reruns basically, but yeah, I guess we're on demand on YouTube and Facebook. Also last night, rerun was cut off. We started talking about, our dear leader, or the worldwide dear leader. I'm not sure, right? Because we talked about the leader of the Bilderberg Group, NWF, as well as Justin Trudeau. Today we'll be talking about pretty much Justin Trudeau. So hopefully that's not a trigger for YouTube. But anyways, Denise says, Toronto is a sanctuary city. We should look these things up so we know. And let's see here. It's funny. No one in the Middle East. I'll take them, but Mr. Trudeau, 50,000 for sure. That's a lot of people, right? 50,000 people coming over from one particular country and belief structure and whatever. I don't know if we really think out our immigration policy very much, and again, we'll talk about Justin Trudeau's methodology of the way he goes about things. Do you agree with that? Do you agree with his very far left leaning, progressive, ultra progressive, on steroids progressive politics? Is it something that Canada wants or needs? Is it going to help him continue to be in power? We'll see, right? We'll see. Well, let's check in with Sudbury first and see, the top stories going on here. And one last comment. Judy says Trudeau is empty-headed bimbo. Yeah, my eyes are definitely not doing too well today. Who has nothing but ruined our country. So it's so that triggered Stephen. Obviously, if we're talking about Trudeau, you really should fact check that fact that you are now sharing as truth on your, again, quote unquote, we've already talked about this. The idea we're talking about the news, we're not the news. You already know that, but I guess we'll continue with that narrative, let's so to speak, right? Because I don't have an agenda on this show. It's just to talk about the news and then hopefully unpack what's going on and ask for transparency and accountability from our leaders, all leaders, no matter who they are, and continue the conversation going. As we see in our society, conversations are getting shut down and everything is being divided, right? So I saw that somebody mentioned Trudeau passed a bill that there's going to be 50,000 refugees coming to Canada. Someone mentioned that. I read it. I didn't say that this is the news, and it's true. So I hope that you can finally just listen to the show and actually hear what's going on. And yeah, I'm not sure. You must have interesting conversations with people. Trudeau is a WEF puppet. Belinda says it's not a war on climate change. It's a war on crimes perpetrated by the government. Speaking of crimes, we'll talk a little bit more about that today in today's show, but let's get to the city for a bit. The city seeks public feedback on the 2024-25 budget and its direction. So if you actually want to chime in on this, Sudbury.com is reporting that the city wants your help to know what direction to go with the budget, or if their budget is good. They're just looking for your input. The city of Greater Sudbury is set to table their proposed budget on November 15th, which city council members are expected to deliberate on and settle on a finalized budget by the end of the year. The city of Greater Sudbury is seeking the public's feedback on the 2024-25 municipal budget, which is slated to be tabled in a draft form on November the 15th. City Council has mandated staff with bringing in a budget which carries a tax levy increase of no greater than 4.7%, which will require them to cut $10.5 million from the city base budget. An additional levy of 1.5% will be proposed to accelerate road renewal efforts, while an additional 0.5% levy will be considered to manage the risk of significant price fluctuations. Altogether, this brings us a potential property tax increase of 6.7% in 2024 and 6.2% in 2025. That's also pending what city council members do with the various business cases they're slated to vote on, which would further affect the budget. Each 1% change in the tax levy represents approximately $3.3 million in expenditures. Municipal budgets must be balanced. The city notes in a media release promoting their call out for public feedback. So they say this means they cannot commit the municipality to provide more services than revenue will support. Several options exist to balance the municipal budget. Instead of changing tax levels, council could choose to adjust service levels, change user fees, or redesign how services are delivered. City Council will vote on both the 24 and 25 operational budgets this year, plus a 4-year capital budget with this their first multi-year budget process. Remember that? Past shows, we went over the city wanting to look more in the future and plan ahead with what, instead of just going year by year, maybe have a little bit of foresight and then just kind of tweak the plan after that as things change. I think that was a kind of a smart move. Do that in our households as well, right? You do that in your personal life. It makes sense to do that for the city. So the first round of community consultation is open until November 8th. Residents may complete a survey, and you can find that on Sudbury.com. The link, it's over to you.greatersudbury.ca. So I guess that's where the city will basically have a forum for your comments, over to you.greatersudbury.ca, or you can call 311 or visit the nearest public library, Citizen Service Center, or one-stop services at Tom Davies Square. So there's many ways to get your voice heard. Once the proposed budget is tabled on November the 15th, the city will host a second round of engagement to inform the public about the proposed budget and gain the public's feedback. To learn more about the city's budget, you can go to greatersudbury.ca/budget. greatersudbury.ca/budget. And you can find all these links if you just click on Sudbury.com. And it is the top story of the day 1 hour ago. And then what they also do is every morning they have, basically yesterday's headlines, but they share them today. If there's anything breaking, they'll do what they just did. They'll also add the story, but they'll email this out to you as well if you get on their email list. We talked about this. Natalie Labby had emailed us yesterday with, the latest council topics they discussed and the results, and this was one of them. City declares gender-based intimate partner violence an epidemic, with gender-based intimate partner violence on the rise since the pandemic started. So one of the causes of gender-based intimate partner violence was the pandemic. So that was a cause. Okay, so since the pandemic started, they've been on the rise. Greater Sudbury City Council declared it an epidemic during their November 7th meeting. So Mayor Paul Lefebvre says horrific recent events in Sault Ste. Marie have added urgency to the need for Sudbury to act now. So I put Sudbury in there. He just said the need to act now. I said that during the meeting. So the troubling reality is that gender-based and intimate partner violence is experienced every day across the province. Greater Sudbury Police responded to 12,812 related calls for service between 2019 and 2022, basically the pandemic years. We're not really out of it yet, according to any of our medical experts, but yeah. Lefebvre related, noting that intimate partner violence has been on the rise since the start of the pandemic. As much as these statistics are very shocking, research shows that these statistics are underestimated. So the research shows that those statistics are underestimated. Interesting. Like to know the research that was done that shows actual statistics that actual police actually log. But I guess maybe, benefit of the doubt, people don't report a lot of stuff. So I would think that would be correct. Lefebvre said, gender-based and intimate partner violence impacts all facets of life, including education and employment, food security, housing stability, and health status. Affected children are more likely to experience negative health outcomes. Wow, there's a lot coming from this for sure. But again, the question is, what changes now that we've declared it an epidemic? What does that mean? How much more money will be available? What kind of programs will be started? Who will get the money for these programs? Will these programs actually work? Right? So again, changing or declaring gender-based intimate partner violence an epidemic does what? How much more money do we get for what? What programs? Who's going to get the money? What are they going to do with it? And how will it stop gender-based intimate partner violence? That's the question. Simple. And these types of things, they're hard to gauge because they're happening all over. It's like you're bombarded with all of these social issues and stuff, and you rarely get a chance to really look at it and say, okay, this is where we're at now. Let's really analyze all these steps and then look back 10 years from now and go, how did it do? Really, look at it. And then you have people now who have organizations that have been created. Jobs are on the line. They're used to funding. And now what are you going to do? Just pull the carpet underneath a whole industry that's been created? It's a very layered thing to do politically, economically, socially. So what does this declaring this epidemic actually mean, other than the social programs we already have in place in our society? What new social programs are going to change or stop gender-based intimate partner violence? These are the questions we have. We will be asking, hopefully, some of our city councilors who hopefully will be on the show in the future, and that's the question I'll be asking. So give you a little time to prepare for these questions. All right, so the city cleared to buy 5 acres of vacant Minnow Lake land. Approximately 5 acres of land in Sudbury's Minnow Lake neighborhood has been cleared for purchase by the city of Greater Sudbury. The planning committee of the city greenlit the proposal during the closed portion of their November 6th meeting, and their decision was ratified by city council as a whole the following night on the 7th. The land is located north of Bancroft Drive, west of First Avenue, and is being purchased from the Sudbury Catholic District School Board. The meeting chair of Ward 10, Councillor Fern Cormier, told Sudbury.com the purchase includes 5.21 acres of land with 67 feet of frontage on Bancroft Drive, 490 feet of frontage on First Ave. It joins adjacent land the city already owns in creating a larger parcel of available property. So what are they going to do with this land? We're not sure. I just know I chimed in for the planning committee meeting. First time I've ever watched a planning committee meeting, which was chaired by Ward 10 Councillor Fern Cormier. And I don't know if this happens all the time, but it was an interesting meeting. There was a young lady, well, I'm saying that respectfully, there was a lady who was there who was opposing, it might have been this very thing, or at least had a lot of questions about it and about zoning and stuff. And bless her soul, she I think was a senior citizen. She said she had a bunch of papers she came with, and she had a bunch of notes on her papers, and she said, I haven't eaten anything today. I have epilepsy. I'm on medication. My thoughts are kind of scrambled. But she was trying to hold the committee accountable for all kinds of things. Interesting, and she had information, but she wasn't connecting any dots really. And I was really, my heart went out to her as she was trying to, say what her concerns were. And she was taking up a good chunk of time trying to articulate what she was saying, oh, and what about this? And then she would go on her notes and try and look for where that was, and she said, I can't read my own writing. And it was kind of sad in some ways. I felt for this lady, but I have to admit, the patience of Fern Cormier, who was chairing the meeting, he was so respectful to this lady, even though she was coming out and giving, almost conspiratorial type, things with what she was saying, but not connecting the dots at all. I'm sure if she could find some evidence of what she was saying, she could have probably connected some dots, but it was so discombobulated what she was saying. But Fern Cormier, again, was just so very patient. And I was just so impressed. I was like, wow, this guy has the patience of Job to listen to this lady and be so respectful and say, ma'am, respectfully, this isn't what the meeting is on. We really do need to stick to why we're here. And I understand you have these other concerns. And he went on and on. Well, anyways, I was just so impressed, so taken back. But then after she was done, and she's like, oh, so you're not going to hear me then? I guess this isn't a place for citizens to actually. So she was accusing, the city of being not transparent and things, which I guess she could have made an argument for on some level, but she never had a chance to do that, really. And so it came across like a really interestingly. Anyway, so afterwards, Fern Cormier was like, man, I guess you just got to close this meeting. This is, I'm so pissed off. Is my mic on? He says. I'm like, okay, he's human. All right. The guy is human at least. So, it was just entertaining. It was funny. I guess it was for the first time tuning into a city planning committee meeting. I guess I got every bang for my buck, that meeting. It was interesting. And so my heart goes out to city councilors who serve and have to, go through these meetings and try to engage the public, because the public is allowed to come to these meetings. And there's a process you got to go through. I mean, but at the same time, man, it's not an easy thing. So even though we try to do somewhat of that on the show here, in a public forum to basically voice your concerns or whatever on what's going on in the city or the province or the country or the world, it's just really, it was interesting. So I would encourage anyone to check out some of these meetings. And yes, I agree with Bob here, who's saying it's not only women who are abused. I know you probably went through this, and I did too. There's abuse that you can suffer at the hands of any gender. And somebody who's not well balanced mentally or whatever can abuse anyone. A lot of serial killers, I notice, I love crime shows and I watch them, and a lot of them do talk about serial killers. And there's one kind of thing that's common amongst most of them anyways that I noticed, and that's their relationship with their mother. And if they were abused by their mom, it's not like everyone who's abused by their mom is going to be a serial killer. But what I did notice was the majority of serial killers that went out and that's what they did. The one common denominator was they were abused by their mom in some way, shape, or form, psychologically, physically, So it's not just, one-sided. And again, I said that on the show yesterday. It's probably 99% men. I do agree, men are stronger by nature, even though today's, you can't talk like that, I guess. There's no men, there's no real women. I don't know how to talk anymore. But in biology, if that's still a thing, how men physically are formed, males, born a male with the male chromosome, have more strength usually than a woman and can overpower her, someone who is born as a woman, as a female, right? So, and so I do agree that it's obviously more on one side than another. But yeah, this whole thing with the the city declaring it an epidemic. We'll have to talk more and more about that and see what that means. But back to Natalie Labby's email here, talking about more, since we're talking about council and what happened there. The economic development and support results, where council received an update on the ongoing efforts to advance the city's economic capacity and investment readiness, including business attraction. That's a key one. That's one that we never really had a handle on. We actually repelled businesses from coming here. Fact, Stephen, that is a fact. Firsthand knowledge that the city was never really open for business in terms of its economic climate here. High taxes, high building fees, you name it. The fact that we have, we were kind of a one industry town for a long time, and we had to compete, and the one industry would say, hey, we don't want any competition here. We want these workers. We want the lion's share. We want to be able to say we want to be able to have these workers, and we don't want any competition for the labor force. So hopefully that's going to happen. City's economic division, which provides support for the existing businesses to stay and thrive in Greater Sudbury, in turn amplifying the city's competitive advantages for the attraction of new investment. And that's something that we can easily do. Like, we can easily just repent of our past and flick a switch and move forward with looking at what we have, positive things to attract new businesses. So another thing that happened at council was the city's integrity commissioner. Remember, he provided the councilors his conclusions regarding complaints he received alleging a breach of code of conduct by 3 councilors. He concluded that 2 of the 3 councilors in question violated the code of conduct. In accordance with the report, council voted to impose sanctions for a 30-day suspension of remuneration for Councillor Leduc and a 10-day suspension of remuneration. So not an easy word to say for Councillor Montpellier. So thanks, Natalie, for that. Much appreciated. Please continue to keep an open communication about City Council, because it does help to get the word out there on what council is doing. Now, again, we'd like to still have a conversation about it with the public, whether or not, everything is smelling like roses and unicorns are floating around and stuff and everything's good. But there are some things, I think, that hard questions we need to ask, like, what is the new declaration of the epidemic of gender-based and intimate partner violence going to do? Like, is that, what does that mean? Stuff like that, Are our roads actually going to get fixed with the increase of taxes that we have? Can we look back a couple of years from now and say, good job, that's awesome, way to go? That kind of thing. But we really appreciate you guys and the work that you do. It's not easy. It's not easy one bit. So thanks for your service to the community. So now, just changing gears a bit, we were talking about, Justin Trudeau and his report card. How has he been doing? Will he go down in history as being one of the best leaders Canada has ever seen in history, like his father did? So Canada has over 5 billion trees. Did you know that? Canada has over 5 billion trees. So this is brought to you today by the Facebook page of a coalition of concerned manufacturers and businesses of Canada. So we talked about Sudbury being open for business and trying to attract businesses, right? Well, we are in Canada as well. So not only do we have to, we're part of Ontario, so Ontario has a bit of accountability in attracting businesses to Ontario. Canada has the we have to attract businesses to Canada. And then if they're going to be attracted to Canada, Ontario says, hey, what about us? And then Sudbury goes, hey, what about us? So it's like one of those little Russian dolls, where it just gets smaller and smaller. But you hope the bullseye is in Sudbury. But it begins with Canada attracting business, making it a climate, no pun intended with what we're going to talk about, for business, open for business. And then Ontario also has to do that because there's taxes, there's various things that can attract businesses. But hopefully Sudbury will indeed accomplish that goal. But Canada and Ontario have a role to play in that as well. So this comes from the Coalition of Concerned Manufacturers and Businesses of Canada, and they're concerned for a reason, because many businesses are closing in Canada because it's not an environment that's conducive to business. And a lot of them feel and can't function and are closing, right? And we have an example of this headline this morning of a chocolatier, a chocolate business going out of business downtown Sudbury because of the people experiencing homelessness are basically driving people away because they're choosing to congregate in front of this particular business. And she feels, the owner, that it's stopping people from coming in and she can't make any money. And so here is an example of, if we were open for business, well, we just had one closing downtown. There's other ones closing as well due to the same thing. I know Pita Pit used to be downtown. This is going back a ways. They closed. There's many, many other businesses downtown that are closing. So how are we going to resolve that and keep businesses open? It's one thing to attract new business. How do we keep the ones open that are already functioning? And here you have Coalition for Concerned Manufacturers and Businesses of Canada Facebook page, where they are looking at the policies that are coming down federally that are really impacting business in Canada. And it's an epidemic. I think city council and mayors around the country should be getting together to declare Justin Trudeau an epidemic and the policies his government is making, because it is an epidemic. It's going to bankrupt the country. And imagine how much violence we'll have once you're bankrupt in your home. So the pandemic was bad enough. Can you imagine if you had no money too on top of it? Lost your job. Many people did during the pandemic. You can just say, during the pandemic, violence increased. But how many people lost their jobs? And half of that is because of economic reasons to begin with. The reason why there's a rise in violence. Think of your own home. Think of, let's say your spouse lost their job because of something they did, or they just wouldn't go look for a job after, and they're on the couch and they're depressed and the bills are coming in. Would you have some buttons that can be pushed a little bit easier at that moment, kind of thing, right? So maybe we should declare Justin Trudeau an epidemic. So Canada has over 5 billion trees. We're already a massive carbon sink. So this is an interesting concept that I just learned this morning. A carbon sink for the rest of the world. Self-imposed poverty on 40 million Canadians will not impact the global climate whatsoever. So a carbon sink is where you have a lot of carbon eating vegetation in one location. And I don't know if you can see this picture, but it just shows where Canada has the vast amount of their trees. And we eat up a lot of carbon as it is. So it's time to get rid of the carbon tax. Just a tool to generate revenue for the Liberals is their headline here. So again, I'm just going to go through what these people are concerned about. So you remember Justin Trudeau said, and if you don't believe me, you can YouTube it or Google it, the budget will balance itself. He was asked this before he was elected. So what about the budget? What are your plans for the future? You know how Liberals are always accusing the Conservatives that they don't have a carbon plan, like they don't have a climate plan, even though they do. Well, a reporter asked him, what's your plan for the economy of Canada? What's your budget going to look like? And he said, well, the budget, it's going to balance itself, right? It's like you go to your spouse and say, hey, who's paying the bills this month? And who's, what am I going to contribute to? What are you going to contribute to? the finances of your home. You know how that runs. And your significant other just said, "Oh, don't worry about it. Everything, we don't have to make dates. We don't have to make a plan. It'll all just work out itself. It just works itself out." You'd go, "Huh? Are you brain damaged?" Not to disrespect anyone out there who has a brain injury at all, because that's a real thing. Here you go. So the budget will balance itself. So there was $670,000 paid to consultants to learn how to save money on consultants. Did you know that? Justin Trudeau paid $670,000 for consultants to learn how to pay less to consultants. That's an interesting one. 329 million. That's $329 million. Imagine if you got a check in the mail that said $329 million. Just imagine what that would do to your life, right? So this is the money we're talking about. Went to a vaccine factory that never produced one vaccine and closed its doors, right? So the budget's going to balance itself. So this is the evidence of the budget balancing itself. $8 million to a barn. They built a barn for $8 million. Hey, you can get a pretty nice barn for $8 million. I mean, I guess we can all, it's our barn now, right? We paid for it, so we can all use it. Anyone want to bring some livestock? We can all go in on some chickens, some goats, sheep. Just bring them to the barn. It's your barn. $8 million spent on a barn. $38 million in a green slush fund. And right now the payments are under review, and they're definitely looking at criminality with this particular slush fund. Money going to businesses that don't even exist, just shell corporations and political favors. So these are the accusations, and that is news, and that these are facts. It's being investigated right now. We've shared the videos on the show about this green slush fund. So the $1 million question is, what did Trudeau promise Blanchette in return for the Bloc's votes to strike down the Conservatives' motion to extend some carbon tax relief to other Canadians, not just constituents of the Liberals, the Liberal parties, Liberal voters. And where the lion's share are Liberal voters of the ones that are getting the rebates, and even a Liberal MP was the one that from Newfoundland that said, "Hey, I'm going to lose this next election if you don't do something. We need at least a 2-year pause on this carbon tax." And Trudeau said, "I'll one up you. I'll make it 3 years. Thank you." Okay, so they get a 3-year relief on the carbon tax. So in response to this, his name was Ken McDonald. He gave the finger to Canadians, basically, when he voted that no other Canadians other than the people that live in his area can receive the carbon tax pause, right? So he gave you the bird on that one, right? He made a choice to give Canadians the finger as he voted to deny the same carbon tax break his constituents received to all other Canadians. So these are the things that this particular group of businesses and manufacturers are concerned about. They're concerned about the policies and the regulations being made by this government. And I can see why. But the provinces are uniting as a result of this. So Prime Minister Justin Trudeau appears determined to go to any lengths to divide Canadians in defense of his unfair carbon tax. As a result, he's uniting the country against him. That's a headline there. Another headline is Liberals turn to separatists to block, no pun intended, the vote on expanding carbon tax break on home heating. Justin Trudeau didn't even show up in person to vote against the Conservative motion to expand his own Liberal carbon tax break. Poilievre and his Conservatives had tried to pass the motion that would have extended Trudeau's carbon tax break for home heating oil to all Canadians, regardless of how they heat their homes. So again, is that Does that sound fair? If you're going to give a break to one group of people? And again, it's just home heating. It's not the gas you put in your car. Like, hey, they're going to get billions of dollars from that in the carbon tax. It's all the other things, groceries, you name it. Yeah. So, all right. So this is Poilievre immediately following the vote down of his suggested motion in the House.
Justin Trudeau confirmed again today that he's not worth the cost. But what we learned is that he's now got a new carbon tax coalition with the separatists to divide our country. Given that the NDP was forced to flip-flop on Trudeau's plan to quadruple the tax, he had to find a new partner to keep him in power and avoid this non-confidence vote from passing. And who was there to save him? The separatists. So he's now signed on with the separatists to divide Canadians into two separate classes. Those who will have to pay carbon tax on their home heat, and a small minority who will get a pause from the pain. All of Trudeau's MPs sold out their constituents and voted to make their home heating more expensive. Trudeau and his costly MPs have divided our country, raised our taxes, and pushed our people out into the cold. After 8 years of Justin Trudeau, 2 million people, a record-smashing 2 million people, had to go to the food bank in a single month. After 8 years of Trudeau, we've had the worst inflation in 4 decades and the fastest rises in interest rates in monetary history. After 8 years of Trudeau, housing costs have doubled, and the share of an average paycheck required to make payments on an average home is higher than ever before. It now takes 25 years to save up for a down payment on an average Toronto home. It used to be you'd pay off an entire mortgage in that time period before Trudeau. And after 8 years of Trudeau, you can now buy a 20-bedroom castle in Scotland for a lower price than a 2-bedroom home in Kitchener. After 8 years of Trudeau, criminals ask if they can stay in jail longer so that they don't have to get out and pay the rent in his housing hell. And to make matters worse, Trudeau wants to quadruple the carbon tax on your heat, gas, and groceries. So with today's vote, and with his hide and divide strategy, Justin Trudeau has set us up for the carbon tax election. We don't know when it will come, but it will happen. And it will be a simple choice between Justin Trudeau's plan to quadruple the tax on your heat, gas, and groceries, and my common sense plan to axe the tax and bring home lower prices. Thank you very much.
Mr. Poilievre, specifically on, you keep promising to axe the tax. I understand you want to axe the carbon tax on consumer side. Can you clarify, would the Conservatives support a pollution price, a carbon price of any type on the industrial side?
Well, the heavy industry does not pay the carbon tax. It only applies on, the fuel charge only applies on gas, diesel, and home heating. And so we're going to axe the carbon tax.
But would the Conservatives support pricing pollution on the industrial side, as there is one?
Our election platform will deal with all these issues.
When will we see that plan?
When the carbon tax election happens, yes.
Monsieur Poilievre, à part le vote d'aujourd'hui.
I would give anything to see reporters try to hold Justin Trudeau accountable the same way they do with Pierre Poilievre. It would be awesome if reporters were actually reporters. I would love to see hard questions to Justin Trudeau. We're never going to see it, though. But it's a fantasy of mine. If I had some kind of unicorn fantasy, the same kinds that we
continue with Justin
have.
Trudeau's political death watch, with the growing names and chorus saying that Trudeau needs to resign. And this time, the call is coming from inside the House. Hello, I'm Adrienne Batra. With me is Brian Lilly. So, Brian, I'm not exaggerating when I say that there is a growing chorus of people, particularly on the Liberal side of the aisle, that are saying it's time for Justin to do what his dad did 40 years ago, take a walk in the snow and resign. And this time it comes from a Liberal stalwart, Percy Down, Jean Chrétien's former chief of staff, now Liberal senator. And he pulled no punches against Trudeau.
He said that the party needs to get back to the center, that it needs a new leader, and it's time for Trudeau to move on. It's funny watching Trudeau react to it. He was walking into the House of Commons for question period the other day, and somebody asked him, well, what do you think of Percy Down's comments? And he, sorry, who? What? Oh, Percy, I hope he's doing well. And then walked into the House of Commons. I'm sorry, he knows exactly who Percy Down is. And he would also know that there's very little chance that Senator Down did this without an implicit or explicit nod and wink from Jean Chrétien. As you say, it was Jean Chrétien's chief of staff. He's been a Liberal senator for a long time. I know Trudeau kicked him out of the Liberal caucus, but Senator Down is not a no one inside the Liberal Party. He may not be a household name, but he is someone that has a bit of weight. And so now it's not just anonymous Liberals griping about the state of their party and their position in the polls. It's someone with heft. By the way, you've also got Lawrence Martin, a columnist with the Globe and Mail, who has been quite friendly to the Trudeau Liberals. Not always friendly to others. He was a pain in the butt to Jean Chrétien, but he wrote a column in the Globe and Mail saying, why doesn't Trudeau realize it's time to go? You've got Catherine McKenna, his former environment minister, criticizing his carbon tax fiasco. You've got Mark Carney, the future Liberal leader, perhaps, criticizing him. There is a growing chorus, as you say, that are calling out Trudeau, something that we're not used to seeing.
So it's not just me, it's people from his own party, but we have diehard Liberals here in Sudbury that would definitely love to see Justin Trudeau become king and emperor and forever rule over us, and that's fine. And they're okay with their opinion, and everyone's got an opinion, and this is where you can share your opinion right here on this show each and every weekday morning between 7:30 and 8:30. We'll be back, God willing, same time, same place tomorrow. Thanks for your comments, everyone. Much appreciated, and there's many views on the news, and even the haters. You're welcome to the party. And we really appreciate you and your hatingness. It's awesome. So keep hating, and those lovers, keep loving. Keep being yourself, being your best self. And we really appreciate everyone who makes up Greater Sudbury. And we are all here to get along and live together and try and understand each other and be respectful. And maybe a little humorous at the same time. So never forget humor. It does the soul good. So we'll be back same time, same place tomorrow, right here on CKLU 96.7 FM. Stay tuned now for Earshot Daily and enjoy the wonderful snow, everyone. Ciao.
This is Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.